Four-game sweep in Philadelphia after losing two out of three in Boston. The Giants are truly playing some awful baseball right now, and they're gonna need to turn things around. I mean, their record is indicative of how they played, and they're just gonna have to play a heck of a lot better and soon.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Excuse me, I'm out of breath. I ran to get my computer charger during the introduction there. And I also realized I didn't have the correct microphone set up in the intro there, but now we should be good. So thanks for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. And what's not game on is the Giants. It's game off for the Giants right now. They're just playing very poorly. I want to say in all facets of the game for the most part, but what really kind of stands out is their inability to score runs with any kind of consistency. I did not verify this statistic, but I have no reason not to believe it. Eric Engel, who does the Locked On Giants postcast on this podcast feed, not on this YouTube channel. It's on Locked On Sports Bay Area, where he does post-game reaction to the Giants, but also all the other Bay Area teams. He tweeted out yesterday, after the Giants had given up 4 or 5 runs, that the Giants have won exactly one game this season when giving up 4 or more runs. And then he said, go enjoy your Sunday if you have better things to do. And so I did not verify that, but it wouldn't surprise me. And that's just unbelievable. One win when giving up. So you give up 4, you lose, basically. And that's tough. I mean, that is a recipe for being 15 and 21. I mean, in a way, it almost feels like fortunate that you're 15 and 21 with that kind of a statistic this many games into the season. So what are we? 36 games into the season, and I say 45 is kind of when you first take that look, and what I mean by that, take that hard look and kind of be able to make some statements that aren't too soon, and I think we're getting to that point. And some of the statements, you can say things like Jorge Soler has been really bad or just not clutch, and Matt Chapman has been bad and not clutch and swinging and missing a ton, and just the offense in general and run prevention in general, which is kind of crazy given that their starting pitching staff is pretty good and they've got a lot of guys that have performed well. But overall, the run prevention, I mean, has been, I want to say, their biggest problem, but then I look around and look at the runs scored, and it's pretty abysmal as well. And so Giants, with this sweep, they are 6-14 on the road. So there you go. I mean, they've just played terribly on the road, and they are 2-11 against teams that are currently, it says on MLB.com above 500, but I'm pretty sure that it's actually, when they do this, they're looking at teams that are at or above 500. So if a team is 500, they will count those teams in there. So Giants have done decently against the Padres, and the Padres are currently a game under 500. So I think if the Padres win a game they're currently playing, then that number will change. But currently, Padres are under 500. So teams that are above 500, Giants are 2-11 against them. And so that explains. I mean, 2-11, my goodness. And then so we hear Alex Pavlovich tweeted out the last 36 games from last year and the first 36 games this year. And last year, in their last 36 games, they went 14-22. This year, they've gone 15-21. So as bad as the end of the season was last year, they're just one win better to start the season this year, and they scored 132 runs in the final 36 games last year, and they've scored the exact same number of runs, 132 in 36 games, which is 3.67 runs per game. So that's just not good enough. You need to be about a run better than that. Um, yeah, they're a run short like every day, and they've hit even fewer homers in their first 36 games than they hit in their last 36 last year. 36 homers last year, 32 this year, and the OPS is pretty similar. I mean, it's almost identical. 674 last year to end the season, 669 this year. So what's crazy is that there's a lot of different players. You know, it's not the same exact roster, and yet you're getting like the same exact results. And so, how much of that is a coincidence versus is there an underlying reason for this? And like, this is when you start to take a hard look at the team and say, what is going on? Like, what is causing this? And somebody asked me on Twitter today or yesterday, like, should we, like, is it fair to look back to the Giants' struggles starting with the departure of Donnie Ecker to the Texas Rangers? And this person, no, like, all due respect, but clearly not an everydayer of the show, because I have talked about that so many times. And the answer, I'm not trying to be mean about that at all. No, you know, I love my everydayers, but not everybody is. But yeah, I mean, Donnie Ecker, who was one of the three hitting coaches brought in when Gabe Kapler was hired, was considered kind of the lead guy, and the Giants hit really well in 2020 and 2021. It wasn't just the kind of fluky 107 win 2021 season. You got Brandon Crawford finishing fourth in MVP voting that year, and then becoming just a total shell of himself in the following two seasons. Buster Posey had a totally resurgent season. Brandon Belt had a monster season that year in 2021. But in 2020 as well, people expected that team to be so bad, and they hit really well. But the last couple of years, I mean, and then 2 years ago too, and then to start this season, like, you're just seeing consistently poor offense. And to me, what I look, it could change. It could change in a hurry. They're coming to Denver, where, you know, runs could. You know, I used to be like, okay, Giants are going to Denver. They're going to score a bunch of runs, but I don't feel that way right now. I feel like maybe. I mean, maybe the Rockies give them all kinds of trouble. You know, that's just the way the Giants are playing right now. Their run differential is minus 41, which is only the Rockies and Marlins have a worst run differential. So that's just not really acceptable with the personnel that they have on this team. There is absolutely no reason they should be the third worst in terms of run differential. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that we are just 36 games into the season. So there's like about 130 games remaining. There's a ton more games remaining, and teams go through things like this. Like, even good teams can start off like this or end like this. Like, think about last year. They were in a playoff position for so much of the season, and then they ended the season like this. But for the first 4 months of the year, 5 months of the year, they were in a really solid position and were in a playoff spot that, like, almost the whole time. And so it could just be switched this year. Maybe they start off poorly and then get hot as the season goes on. You just don't know. And so I don't want to, like, you know, declare the season over and say they're never going to hit. Like, you've just got a bunch of guys not performing up to, like, career norms at all on the offensive side. And even on the defensive side, we've seen struggles from guys like Matt Chapman recently, which just doesn't make sense at all. But coming up in just a minute, we're going to talk more about the offense specifically. And there's one thing that stands out to me that I just keep thinking about after I heard while watching a Dodgers broadcast. So we will get into what that was and why I think like the Giants ought to take this approach. So we'll get into that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by LinkedIn. Are you struggling to close deals? B2B selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn's Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals, such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/locked on. That is linkedin.com/locked on for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/locked on and get started. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here and talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends. You don't have to compete against them like I was saying the other day that I love to do in this game, but you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete big albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting your friends, that's what I'm talking about, when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, as promised, more about the offense. There's just something in particular that's started to stand out to me ever since I heard this. I was watching a Dodgers game early on in the season. It may have even been in spring training. Maybe it was a Giants game that was broadcast on the Dodgers television network. But it was the secret that, or like the one key that Freddie Freeman uses in his approach at the plate. And the Giants, the more I watch them, I'm like, they're not taking that approach. Freddie Freeman's pretty good. And so maybe they might consider this approach instead. I feel like that's part of what's going on is this approach is totally lacking. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers tomorrow. We're going to be either talking to Paul Francis Sully from Locked On MLB, or doing a crossover with Paul Holden from Locked On Rockies, or a mailbag. I haven't decided which of those three, and it depends on the schedules of those two guys. And so one of those three, be on the lookout for that tomorrow ahead of the opener against the Rockies. Also, just a reminder that you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, what is this approach by Freddie Freeman that I'm talking about? It was really interesting when I heard it. And I mean, Freddie Freeman, like I said, pretty darn good hitter to try to emulate yourself after. And what the approach was is that they said, and I think they said that Ohtani, like Shohei Ohtani, was like intrigued by it as well. And what it was that they said Freddie Freeman enters every at bat imagining that the count is 0-1 already. And so basically what that tells me is he's ready to hit the first pitch, and he like I just feel like I've seen, and people have commented this to me on Twitter all the time too, is like a lot of like takes on pitches that are hittable and a lot of swings at pitches that are not good pitches to swing at, and it's kind of baffling and inexplicable. Um, to see. And so for, if you go in there and you're like feeling like it's 0 and 1 already, you're not going to take like a cookie kind of pitch. I don't know what they're looking for. Like I'd honestly love to know, like a lot of the time when we see, like I saw it over and over in this series, you're seeing a hittable pitch like in the fat part of the strike zone just taken for strike one. And so I don't know if the philosophy is just kind of like swing less, like that, like some of the analytics kind of suggest just swinging less, but part of the, you know, because guys chase, and if you swing less, but you can't go up there like I'm just not going to swing. That is, you gotta be able to swing if the ball is in your zone and area. So you need to be. I mean, Gabe Kapler said it, and he's right. Like especially aggressive on pitches you can drive, and especially patient on the pitches you can't. And so maybe that's what we're seeing, but I'm seeing, like, for example, was it last night or today? Mike Yastrzemski. There was, he has trouble with a lot of spots, like up in the zone with fastballs, and even breaking balls are tough for him. Up and in is tough for him, but down is his area. And I saw him take a pitch that was like just kind of middle down for a strike, and then he gets into a count, that's unfavorable because he's taken a strike, and then later he's swinging at pitches up in the zone that aren't in his area, and he's chasing pitches that are bouncing in the dirt, and it's like, well, maybe all of that is avoided if you take a swing at that fastball that you got that was right there at the knees where you like it. And so, look, hitting is like impossible. I don't know how many of you have actually played baseball. I played not at the professional level, not even in college, but in high school. And hitting is like when they say it's the hardest thing to do in sports, I 100% believe it. Like I picked up golf, way better at golf than I ever was at baseball, even though I played baseball for like all my life until after high school, from little league on. And but I picked up golf, and within a year I was better at golf than I ever was at baseball. And then tennis, I'm better at tennis than I ever was at baseball. Hitting in baseball is just so hard, and I'm talking about amateur, like total amateur level. And these guys are at the highest of levels. These pitches are so much nastier than they appear on TV. And so I don't want to come on and act like hitting is easy and the Giants are just so bad. Like these guys are so talented. It's just that the pitchers are also really talented, and if you're not just like exceptional at what you do, you're going to struggle. And that's what we're seeing. And so like all of these guys are exceptionally talented hitters. They're unbelievably talented baseball players. Facts, like no joke at all. And those of you who have played baseball, you understand. I mean, any of us listening, if you tried to stand in the box against Zach Wheeler, like good freaking luck. Like you wouldn't even touch it. Wouldn't even touch the ball. Like all due respect, I'm not trying to be mean to anyone, but it is so hard, and it's so much more difficult than it looks on TV. But nevertheless, this approach by Freddie Freeman, thinking it's 0 and 1, like trying to put himself in the mindset that it's 0 and 1 to start the at bat, which makes you ready to hit right away. You're not trying to just sit there and take a pitch, because I feel like, and if it's 0 and 1, you also don't want to fall behind 0 and 2. You got to be careful about what you swing at. So it doesn't mean just swing at everything. It means like be careful about not chasing, but also if you get a pitch to hit, you don't just want to take a hittable pitch, because then in your mind it's 0 and 2, even though it's actually 0 and 1. So I just thought that was an interesting kind of, when Freddie Freeman has a specific kind of approach, you listen, because Freddie Freeman is just one of those uber talented hitters. Like he's kind of a freak hitter in just how talented he is. And so, I mean, Matt Chapman, just a lot of passivity by the Giants, and then like chase and aggression when they get to two strikes. That's what I see. I I don't really have the numbers pulled up to back that up, but that's what I'm seeing is passive early and aggressive late. And I kind of feel like it should be more the opposite, but it's got to be controlled aggression all the time. You cannot just be chasing out of the zone. But if you get a pitch to hit, you got to swing at it, even if it's the first pitch. So it could just be that I'm wrong and that maybe they swing at the first pitch more than anybody and that they're not chasing more than most teams with two strikes or whatever. But that's just when you're not scoring runs, it just doesn't look good. And that's kind of like how it looks to me. Let me know what you're seeing. I just know it's not been good, right? And one win when you allow four more runs, like that's crazy if that's true. And I haven't verified that again by Eric Engel, who does postcast. So coming up in just a minute, we have a lot more to cover. I want to talk about both catchers on the Giants getting hurt in this series in back-to-back days, and Mason Black finally getting the call in that Blake Snell spot in the rotation to make a legitimate start and not have this be a bullpen game. So all about that and the corresponding roster moves and what it means to have these new guys on the roster in just a minute. But before we get into it, today's episode is brought to you in part by Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. I have multiple accounts all over the place, and I use Yahoo Finance to see them all in one place. And it is so much more helpful than it would be to just try to kind of keep track or keep them in a spreadsheet or whatever it is. And with it all in one place, I have a super easy time managing these finances. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. With a community of over 90 million users each month, Yahoo's real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. I use it. That's yahoofinance.com. All right, as promised, we're going to get into the catching disaster for the Giants that took place in this series, and also Mason Black making his major league debut today and taking the L, but starting off really well, and then things kind of spiraled as he got into like the fourth and fifth innings. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow. It's going to be a mystery box. Are we going to be talking with Paul Francis Sullivan of Locked On MLB, Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies, or doing a mailbag episode? One of the three, and we have yet to know and find out, but we will maybe let you know later tonight, or just it'll be a surprise tomorrow. Also a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search the word Giants. And also a reminder, Eric Engel does postcast for the Giants on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel, where it's not just for the Giants, but all the Bay Area sports teams, Warriors and 49ers, when those teams are in season, and the Giants right now after the game. If you want instant reaction, head on over to Locked On Sports Bay Area. It's just like extra content for you that we are providing. And that feed also shows up on this podcast feed. It's always going to say postcast in the front. So just another reminder about that. So the Giants lost Patrick Bailey and Tom Murphy in back-to-back games, and that stinks. I mean, what really stinks is losing Bailey. Thankfully, for Bailey, it's, a head injury always seems worse, but the injured list is shorter. Like, it's a 7-day concussion IL, and he went on it last year in September, I think it was, and he only missed the minimum amount of time. And so Bailey coming back will be huge because he is so important to what this team does. He was hitting well, one of the few guys who was hitting well, and also the great defense that he provides and just kind of the leadership behind the plate that he provides. I think Jordan Hicks has started calling him like Little Yachty or something like that, or Yachty 2.0, something like that. Because and that's the comparison I made. A lot of people were throwing out Buster Posey comparisons right away, but I was saying Yachty or Molina comparisons. But he just is Patrick Bailey. Let's just let him be Bailey. But so they lose Bailey to blurry vision, so he goes on the concussion IL. Next game in the rain, Giants get completely blown out in this ugly game on Saturday, and Tom Murphy hurts his knee and felt a pop and got put on the injured list after the game. Prior to, I mean, Blake Sabol had already gotten called up to replace Bailey, and then they had to add Jakson Reetz to the roster, who actually he homered in and like brought the Giants to within a run on Sunday Night Baseball last night in his first at bat with the Giants. So I can't talk too poorly about Jakson Reetz after that, but currently going with Blake Sabol and Jakson Reetz, it's definitely a downgrade from Patrick Bailey, especially, but also Tom Murphy. And so the sooner Bailey can come back, the better. And ideally you have a right-handed complement, but I think they'd probably go with Blake Sabol over Jakson Reetz, but I'm not entirely sure now that both are on the 40-man roster. Sabol already was, but Reetz wasn't. So they had to designate a couple guys for assignment to get they had to get a lot of guys on the roster here. So they DFA'd Dalton Jeffries, they DFA'd Mitch White, and Mason Black was also recalled, not recalled, selected. So they had to DFA Dalton Jeffries to get Mason Black onto the roster. And so Mason Black has just been dominating in AAA to the point where last week at some point we were talking about, there was a mailbag question actually, like, why isn't Mason Black on this roster essentially? And my answer was, I don't know, because they were going with like Dalton Jeffries and bullpen games and all that when that Blake Snell spot in the rotation would come up. And meanwhile, you've got Mason Black, who had a 1.01 ERA in the Pacific Coast League, which is a really, really difficult place to pitch, with a 29% strikeout rate. Walk rate was 8%. And 0.34 home runs per nine. That's one home run allowed in 26 and 2/3 innings. So after that episode, he pitched again and went 4 scoreless innings again. So they did in fact select him. He did in fact make his major league debut today, and he was good early. He put up 3 zeros to start the game. He struck out Bryce Harper. He struck out JT Realmuto. But when all was said and done, he kind of fell apart as the outing went on and ended up, he started losing command is where it began. 2 times with 2 outs and nobody on, he walked a hitter, and it kind of started a little rally for the Phillies. And then Bryce Harper got him for a home run later on in another inning. So when all is said and done, he goes 4 1/3, gives up 8 hits, 3 walks, 5 runs, strikes out 4, and gives up the 1 homer. But the first 3 innings were a good indicator of his potential. And also the Phillies did this to the Giants. They did this to Logan Webb. I mean, they touched up Giants pitching, and that's the thing, is Giants pitching has been kind of more of a problem overall when you're just talking about ERA than the hitting. They came into the game 20th in ERA 20th in wins above replacement, which is not based on ERA. 24th in ERA at 4.54. There's some good teams surrounding them there, like the Tampa Bay Rays, the Houston Astros. Those teams are worse. The Diamondbacks are right around there. The Padres are right around there. And so that kind of is an indicator of early seasonness. And also the peripheral numbers for the Giants are significantly lower. So their strand rate is really low. So there's an element of bad luck, it appears, with the pitching, but I really want to verify that stat. And yeah, they've allowed the fourth highest batting average on balls in play as a pitching staff, and their strand rate is also the 4th lowest in the game. And so there is an element of bad luck happening here with the pitching, and so that's a good sign. bad news is you're going to Coors Field, which is like the world's toughest place to pitch. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe a miracle takes place and they somehow pitch really well. In Denver, I believe it's Jordan Hicks tomorrow, and Jordan Hicks like has no, it's Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison has the stuff. Jordan Hicks has the stuff to be able to take on Coors Field, and so I'm kind of optimistic about that actually, because that kind of stuff, like the firm fastball and the changeup from Harrison, that plays. And then likewise with Hicks, the ground ball ability and the firm fastball and the splitter plays as well at Coors. And then the Rockies are just bad, and the Giants' offense is better than this, and they should be able to go out there and do better offensively. I just say this? I really want to verify that that is true, that they've only won one game when they've given up 4 runs or more, because that's like one of the more crazy things I've ever heard. So I'm going to verify that, and like retweet Eric's tweet and say, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable." If I can verify that, it'll just simply take looking at the scores from the season. But if that's true, that's insane. It's just like you allow 4 runs, and they've frequently recently allowed 4 runs or more like early, and so it's like the game's over in like the second inning because it's like 4-0 or something, and it's like, well, the Giants don't win if they allow 4 runs, and so that's how it feels right now. But it's a long season, and things can totally change, and they could turn things around. They could sweep the Rockies. This team last year won 10 games in a row. If you win 10 games in a row right now, suddenly what would their record be? They would be 25-21. They went on it. They won. Last year's team wasn't ended up not being good, but they still won 10 in a row. That's baseball. It happens. And the Twins, they started out really poorly, and then they won 12 in a row. And so, it can turn on a dime, and I don't know. It's been tough to watch. There's no denying that. And I wanted to get more into, we talked about Donnie Ecker for a second. The common thread to me, like if you're looking for a common thread, it's Justin Veely, who is like the remaining hitting coach from that initial group of 3 that came in under Kapler. And they just haven't hit well under Justin Veely. And so is if ever there was like a move to make, like an early season reaction to some struggles, could it be at the hitting coach position? I was surprised. I was honestly surprised that Justin Veely was retained, but I also don't know what's going on behind the scenes. He could be great at what he does, and it's just the Giants aren't executing, or I just have no idea. But he is like, it is easy to look at that departure of Ecker and Veely being the like not replacement. He was already there, but just being the main guy, and then the offense basically not recovering for the last 2 years and 36 games or whatever. They've just not been the same. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, like I said, it's a mystery box, a crossover, or a mailbag, one of the two. So be on the lookout for that. Just a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. Also, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Hopefully the Giants could take advantage of the Rockies, but you never know. You definitely never know here with this team. So thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.